We're live. Okay. Hello Gladys, Ashley, Gus, Steve. Welcome and everybody out there in Facebook and Poetry Land to the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. I'm Thundercloud, washing away the garbage, leaving rainbows after rain. We've got Paul and Gabriel just about to come on in as well. So we're going to be joined by a few people tonight here. So let's begin the night by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we broadcast, their Kamilaroi, the band by people, and their continuing connection to the land of the elders past, present, and emerging, and acknowledge that sovereignty has never been ceded. Right, on that, from there, we're going to move right into it, and tonight I'm going to be reading a couple of poets for you. One of them will be Tug Dumbly, and the other one is Dick Monley. But first of all, I'm going to start with one I wrote 3 days ago. It's about seahorses, and it's one of those ones where I contrast two things. So it's called, I don't know, it's just seahorses. So I've got one seahorse behind me, there's my prop, and a little seahorse in my hand, my other prop. One's happy, one's sad. The seahorse was swimming and feeling quite glad when it met another seahorse. But this one was sad, so the glad one invited the sad one to stay at his pad. The sad seahorse was in fact a little bit mad. The sad seahorse sat around with sad things to say. The glad seahorse would chase goals and dreams every day, living life creating in spontaneous action and play. But at the end of the day, they both went their own way. The glad seahorse thought that it was being kind, but life is exactly what you make it in your mind. One seahorse saw opportunities while the other one was blind. It often takes a crisis to get you out of a bind. The sad seahorse would complain because it couldn't fly. The glad seahorse accepted it and didn't even try. The regretful and resentful, the sad seahorse would cry. The glad seahorse laughed daily until the day died. The glad seahorse lived in a cheery kind of locus. How beautiful the world is was its major focus. And never watch the news or that kind of hocus pocus, but focus on the positive and telling lots of jokers. That's it.
Alright.
Why don't elephants climb trees? Because they're not very good at it. Anyway. Tug Dumbly. Yeah. You don't have to have... we got Tug Dumbly. Now, Tug Dumbly is quite a well-known Australian poet. Has done a lot for poetry and poetry slams and poetry events throughout Australia, performed. And this is a little book that I got from him back in Nimbin, I think, in 2019, just before I left there. He came there and did a show at the Nimbin Bolo. So tonight I'm going to be reading 3 of his poems, and they're the 3 of my favourite ones, which I have done before here at Poetry Night, but that's all the better because at least I'm going to not stumble over my words.
Can you tell us your first impression of Tug when you met him?
No? Just to hear him.
Is it Pug or Tug?
Tug.
Lost in the Sydney froth.
Yeah, so I chose this because Ashley tonight mentioned how he sort of can't go to Nimbin since the Rainbow Cafe that went down, and I mentioned a few things, and then he mentioned that, so that's why I'm doing him. This first one we've called is a Sunday morning walk in Nimbin, and Tug is actually, I think, the 3 times winner of the Nimbin Performance Poetry World Cup. Now, poets out there, if you're listening, it's currently open for entries There's only 40 entries because I have 4 heats. They go down to 2 semis and then a final with 8 poets. And each poem has to be 8 minutes. It has to be memorised because it's a performance poetry World Cup. It's not just a reading poetry. And so we're putting in actions and whatever as well to make it more interesting or voice modulation, etc. So if you're interested, put in an expression of interest now out there if you want to do the Nimbin Performance Poetry World Cup, which I think is in September. But I'd have to check up on that, and you can look up on that. Follow Vincent Stead online and the Nimbin Performance Poetry World Cup. So Tug Dumbly, 3 times winner of that. This one, Sunday morning walk, Nimbin. Along the lane, under the tree that killed it, a car. Airbags exploded, passenger door burping to the cows. I give it a forensic. Recent, but not totally fresh. No cobwebs yet though. Stereo and hubcaps jacked. Nose punched to a V by a tree. Scraps of police tape. Probably not fatal, pretty intact. But who am I to judge impact? There's a salting of glass on the floor, a kid's books and burnt CDs and coins. Like the coins I found as a kid on the floor of that wreck in the police impound that backed onto the primary school, the ones I stole and washed the blood off and used to buy a flying fox. My mother turned me into the cops, I confessed. Funny thing, she didn't suspect. There was no need to spill, it was a seamless crime. But then I've got this confessional streak a mile wide. I've always felt compelled to tell, to split the proceeds of my guilty conscience. Some might see that as noble. I've come to see it more as attention-seeking by other means. I leave the coins this time. There's, though maybe enough, more than enough for coffee, but I've learned something about consequences, karma, and the kind of guilt you perversely befriend. I'm not really all that zen, but hey man, this is Nimbin, and I'm 50, not 10. Someone else in Nimbin probably took them.
Probably you, guys.
Yeah, probably not. Next one is about the Old Testament. I prefer God's Funny Old Stuff by Tug Dumbly. I prefer God's funny old stuff to his new stuff. His Old Testament hijinks, the Cain and Abel homicide, locust plagues, rains of blood. Screw Hollywood. Back then, God was Hollywood, and Christ could he direct. A sea to swallow Pharaoh's army, Babylon burning, the fire, that flood. All games, action, drama, romance, and suspense of fake son sacrifice. Weird, dirty sex of daughters, fucking their drunk dad. Oh yeah, God put the sin in cinematic. He was the G in CGI. No special effects required. But his old stuff's miles better than his new stuff. All that pussy New Testament crap about turning the other cheek. Nah, turn the other ass cheek. For a God who smites sodomites, turns women to condiments, a God who engineers shit, just so he can set up retribution. Vigilante vendettas and high noon showdowns. A John Wayne God, a Chuck Norris God, a Dirty Harry God, a Republican Party actor God who settles scores old school. A God who understands the point of drama. A psychotic, jealous Jehovah howling for vengeance, spewing blood and fire, wrath and righteous fury. A God who schizophrenically swings between smiling and smiting. Who wipes out whole tribes like a child frying ants under a magnifying glass. Now that's border protection. That's the stuff people want. A big arena spectacular God with all the extras left dead. A show to get the punters sending rivers of terrified piss cascading down the stadium aisles. Okay, if you must, give Christ a cameo. Some cross-sponsorship, bend the crucifix to a pair of golden arches. For a closer, well, that's a natural. A rapture, revelation, apocalypse, big bang finish. Yeah, I know it's from the new book too, but come on. The whore, all those multi-eyed mescaline beasts, such a lovely old school ring. So come on people, let's do this show. We can't lose with this thing. I mean, who's going to ask for refunds? Suckers. Alright, and now one more I've got from Tug Dumbly that I'm particularly fond of, and it's called Found Poem Kuma. Now I'm just going to put this up and I'll just hold it out there for everyone to see, and it's going to be, I'll stick it to here, and it says, Shane rocks the world and all the pretty girls can rest upon the knee of Jesus. Hi. Okay, let's try that again. Found poem, Kuma. How sweet to find a poem in the footpath that doesn't start and end with Shally sucks or was it was here. But there it was, etched with conviction to outweather decades. Shane rocks the world and all the pretty girls can rest upon the knee of Jesus. Enigmatic, evocative, demanding to be puzzled at. Who was the Shane who so boldly carved this rune into the concrete of a Kuma street? A modern marvel? One who, having spent his rhetorical stock, failing to coax his mistress from her chastity, was now washing his hands of the whole flock, saving themselves for the Saviour's knee. That knee. That's what got me. Not the Lord's arms or bosom with all the pretty girls to be blessed, but rest upon the knee of Jesus. A cracked world joined in a small world stressed. It had been a bleak day. Shane, 6-hour drive from Sydney, hungover and hunted by murderous semis clocking the monotonous mounds of roadkill I was trying not to become. I checked in, the lone guest of the Bates Motel, and took a walk through the alpine dusk. Armed with a bottle of rough red in my defence against the cold in my own company. Sought the church where my mother grew, maybe seeking something of myself in the impossible gap of years, in the melancholy proximity to my flesh's past. I found no trace of the minister's daughter, but I did find a poem, your poem, Shane. A little wonder in my path. I studied the words in the dying light, trying to riddle out the narrative of you, the pretty girls and Jesus, but at best could only second guess. You lent me a spark. In years to come, your blazon will remain testament to a man of fire and heart. Decades down, others may stop and ponder your puzzle with conjecture and rumour. Who was this Shane who rocked the world? Enigmatic street scribe of Cooma. So, yeah, that's it for, thank you very much for Tug Dumbly, for not just those bits of poetry but all he's done over the time. So if you're out there, Tug, listening, thank you. I'm going to invite Ashley up now. Ashley Albanese.
Here I am, still trying to keep continuity or get continuity out of change or be gotten by it. So, once again, my trusty swords: hypothesis, implication and perimeter. And to show that I'm not obsessive and that I don't go to bed late at night dreaming about crystals, I'd need a fourth one, wouldn't I? Now, what have I been reading? I've been reading about lots of streams of philosophy connected to Leibniz and Heidegger, talking about, really when you think it through and boil it down, plus and minus. And I always have that as an arch in my thinking, that deduction is basically plus and induction is basically minus. And I got this overarching thought many years ago reading the great Prince Kropotkin, who said that plus and minus give us all the function of the Marxist dialectic. Well, I don't believe that, but I love this thought and I follow it through all the time. So, let's begin. I sat in my little white Nimbus tonight in the cold, and I had the engine on and the heater rolling. And I had melancholy thoughts, as I always do, about the destruction of the museum in Nimbin in 2014, which has a particular resonance in my life. So I wrote these words. In 1897, Jim rode the logs. The rain pushed down. Some carried off to Lismore town and some for walls at Nimbin. Walls and roof, fire went. In the history of August 014 in a small village. The museum muse, spluttering, exploding in a cloak of orange red. In 1897, Jim rode the logs. Through gully rain, rode them down. That's literally so. The fellas bringing in the timber and the cedar, if you're in the main street of Nimbin and you look up towards the mountains, contouring to Mount Nardi, they used to go up and they'd put their timber in piles, and when the big rain set in, they'd go up and lever it down and sometimes ride it down through the gullies to the creeks to carry it off to beautiful dining tables in London or accoutrements of a boudoir in Sydney. So, when the walls of the museum at Nimbin went up in a flare, they were once piggybacking timber cutters in the northern rivers of New South Wales. I will do two more things. Gladys said to me the other day, "Oh, I really like some of your funny comments about how Australian literature and history has come up through the facets of your family's spectrum and prism." Well, not prism. My sister lived with Dorothy Hewitt, one of the colleges at Griffith University, many years ago, when she would come up and do writers' workshops and interaction with the Brisbane world. And my sister used to have dinner with Dorothy and her guests, I think every Thursday or Friday night. So it's 50 years ago now. And my sister's going strong, and so am I. But Miss Hewitt's passed on. But her great musical, that's often performed at Sydney Opera House, The Man from Muckanuppan, will go on forever. They say if it's well done, it's a wonderful, rich Australian experience. So Dorothy wrote this. She was a 22-year-old when the atom bomb was dropped. So all the people and writers I know who were 20, 21, 22 when the atom bomb was dropped all have a certain shadow upon them. This poem is called Go Down Red Roses. Go down all my blood red roses is the chorus of an old English sea chanty. She lines that up before her writing. Oh, when shall we two meet again, in thunder and in lightning and in rain? By what strange waters and by what dry docks, by what mean streets alive with summer frocks, and girls and men with grease across their lips, who fire the boilers on what lonely ships? By the waters of the Yarra I sat down and wept, for you, timber cutter, cane cutter, black-faced stoker on the Ellaroo, Melbourne to Newcastle, Sydney to Rocky, shipped out of port anywhere, anything new, and the Yarra waters are muddy with 1,000 tears of shop girl, typist, process worker and whore, by the pitiless street light, the park and the empty door, and the train in the cutting, whispering nevermore. When the footsteps die at the end of the empty street, when the faces die in the neon sign and the pub closes, the door shuts, the ship pulls out of the dock, this is the end. And go down all my red roses. I weep for you, my love, who will not be loved. You wandering men with a swag of dust on your shoulders, carting a holy blanket to the world's end, the Southern Cross over your right eye and your left, turned inwards, fist in your pocket, punchy and warm, a hole in your heart and a star where the blanket's torn. Walking, God knows where, the Yarra streets under your footsteps. Look out for the bodgies. They swing a hard bottle at night. And the Southern Cross has a wan and a wandering light. And the neon sign is blood red as a rose. Oh, tears and mud and regret where the Yarra flows. And the seagull screams on the ship, and the wild wind blows. Go down red roses. Dining in town tonight, a warm welcomes you. Arms and kisses and Melbourne draft at the London pub. The bed is warm, the woman is warm and willing. A breast to fondle, an early start to curse, and promises easy, conclusion is something worse. Running before the tide out of Sydney to Rockhampton, do you carry my letter in your pocket like a promise of love? Continents swing between us, desert and sand and scrub. The plane dips, the bite arcs in a sunlit dazzle of surf. 2,000 miles measure 2,000 years, and you are gone over the rim of the Tasman Sea, and the Yarra mud has swallowed up all my tears. I sleep alone with a kiss print on my lips. The thud of my heart beats in the engine room. Ah, the ship is hollow, and hollow thuds my heart. Ah, hollow, hollow, the cormorant flaps and crows. On the Yarra bank the red rose blooms and blows. The flowers of spring sink in the muddied river and go down all my red roses. Oh, when shall we two meet again, in thunder and in lightning and in rain? But what strange waters, by what dry docks, by what mean streets alive with summer frogs, and girls and men with grease across their lips, who fire the boilers on what lonely ships? Timber cutter, cane cutter, black-faced stoker on the Ellaroo, Melbourne to Newcastle, Sydney to Rocky, shipped out of port, letters are following anything new. Nowhere to go, it's late, the last pub closes, pillow lies like a stone under your head, the prostitute's shoes grow cold under your bed. The bed's still warm in the last port where you slept. By the waters of the Yarra I sat down and wept. Go down all my blood red roses. My sister used to love to talk about Dorothy. She must have been quite a wild reprobate, isn't it? And when you read reports of good productions of Man of Mucking Up, and you realise, as you do, reading the beautiful bounty of its text, that it's quite something she achieved there. I'll go over to one of my favourite figures in Australian life. May I recommend Geoffrey Dutton's autobiography, which is called... you'll have to take out your mobiles and click in Geoffrey Dutton, Australian poet. It's called Out in the Open, I think, because he lived in a rather constrained, super rich family, and he wanted to have that liberality that we can get from reading Walt Whitman and Henry Lawson and all those peoples. This is a very beautiful poem, I think. Of course I would, or I wouldn't be reading it. But sometimes I read poems I don't like, and sometimes I recite poems I don't like, because they all have something to teach. The ones you love and the ones you don't love. It's called The Boat in the Paddock by Geoffrey Dutton. She floats in the young green summer between a stringy bark and a hawthorn tree, where ants rise to her quiet keel, and instead of porpoises, 3 geese breast the waves of grass around. The dove, the pulse of summer, beats all day from the fronting hill, one sound in the fine day's ripples, where water slapped along the clinker and the moorings made a creaking sound. She rides level as summer. No storm can heave her obstinate bow, nor strain her ribs as the mast leans out, cat's paws across the grass, gusts loud in the rigging, she has safely run aground. This is her 45th summer, but nowhere is now too far to go. A boy sails her from Rio to Borneo. Amongst the trees great whales blow. In the grass good fish are found. Beautiful poem, that one. He wrote some wonderful things. The one about the mad dingo dogs lamenting and singing in the full moon on the old decaying World War II runway in the Northern Territory, as he as his comrades go north for a reunion of soldiers who fought and fell at El Alamein or in the North African War, is a wonderful poem. Ending with an immortal capture where all are equal, none are wild. How I've loved that phrase. And I will finish with a song from my sister Natasha's great love, Stevie Smith. Oh, glorious Stevie, who puzzled the English because she didn't puzzle them. She showed so much of them in the mirror of her writing that I must say they were entranced. This is my version of And the Clouds Return After the Rain. I thought it had a very melancholy medieval quality to sing, so sing I do. After the clouds return after the rain. In a shower of tears I sped my fears, and lost my heavy pain. But now my grief, that new relief, is sultry door again. Of leaf and flower of that first shower, no memories remain. The clouds hang down in heavy frown, but still it does not rain. Happy the man of simple span, whose cry waits on his pain. There are some whose mouths are dumb when the clouds return again.
Thanks, Ashley. Okay. Edgar Allan Poe said. Edgar Allan Poe.
Yes.
Well, Edgar Allan Poe said or wrote, I don't know, poetry is the rhythmical creation of beauty in words. I really liked that first one you did.
Which one? One about the fire,
The very first one.
about England.
No, after that, the second one.
Oh, roses, yeah.
Yeah. By, who was it again?
Oh,
Dorothy Hewitt.
Dorothy Hewitt.
Yeah, that was awesome. I
I'll
like
have to try to get you collected works for your library. She's a good poet. Good.
So with, just on that note of Edgar Allan Poe's, poetry is a rhythmical creation of beauty in words. I was inspired to write this little one. Vomiting feelings on paper or screen is the worst kind of poetry, you know what I mean, but put in some effort to craft with heart the best kind of poetry is rhymed, metered and art. It's just my opinion. Thank you very much. I like to...
You don't quite get it first time.
Vomiting feelings on paper or screen is the worst kind of poetry, if you know what I mean. But put in some effort to craft it with heart, the best kind of poetry is rhymed, metered and art. Well, it was rhymed and metered and yeah, and it doesn't have to be big and long and whatever. So...
Do you mind if I read it out from here?
No, not at all.
Cheers, sorry.
Not at all. You don't want to be on screen, that's okay? Yeah, that's all good. Alright, now Steve, what's your other surname?
Norris.
Steve Norris is going to read for us.
Oh.
So some...
This poem's called Metaphysics from the Whiskey Sage. It's written about a poem. It's written about a friend of mine who runs a whiskey bar in Sydney. He's not a metaphysician, and neither am I. For those who are not sure what metaphysics is, it's mainly a theory of what is ultimate reality.
The only thing that makes fucking sense.
Sorry.
Political.
Anyway, I'll read this poem, it's not too long. There is enough smoke here to make the peat bearable, the whiskey sage pronounces, a sublime asceticism, cheerful and detached, Leibniz in Apocalypse. I'm a different species, mining consciousness, analysing culture, caring, ineffectual, intellectual, resentful, bleak, sweet, guilty, appalled at nature's fractal cruelty. His is sniffing wisdom, cultivated in the kiln of Heraclite and fury, aloof to a humanity defending post-civilization by a broken mythology of reverential solipsism. There is stagecraft in a nosy tongue, deliberating on pleasure, sensualising mind, digesting history, beaming irony's warmth in post-cold dystopia. Taste survived evolution by creating from matter a sermon on the malt. That's it.
I got that, but the first,
the ending is basically after you've drunk that much whiskey, you start talking complete nonsense. It says, taste survived evolution by creating from matter a sermon on the malt.
Okay. Yeah. Now, I've written about Polly the rainbow zebra unicorn once before, and this one just happened the other day. It's a little one. Polly the rainbow zebra unicorn decided that life was too warm. Polly left the warm unicorn cave and outside froze its horn. It was freezing, black clouds blew in and the winds began to blow. Then at that very next moment it began to heavily snow. Polly played in the snow and made a snow unicorn. Then a second snow unicorn, both with carrots for horns. Next, a snow blue whale and a snow great white shark. After that, a whole zoo full of exotic animals in the park. Polly built an igloo for a home with a giant ice slide, and then began charging all the local kids 50 cents a ride. That's it. I'm not too happy with it, but anyway, it is what it is. It's and again, I was sort of aim at surrealism in that one, but it sort of, I don't know, it just didn't end up such a great poem anyway. It wasn't well minted. So I would like to invite the birthday girl up. Gladys Wilson celebrated her birthday yesterday.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
She's a Cancer right son, but you must be touching us.
Are you Cancer too?
Yeah, I'm a touchy bitch.
When's yours?
I was
We went
21
back on the
yesterday.
8th, mate. You know, about
When you were a crook, yeah.
Was I, James?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was 21 yesterday, wasn't I?
Oh, that old.
Beautiful.
Okay, well, it's, anyway, it's lovely to have you all back. It's so great to have Doug back.
Oh, thank you,
We
mate.
thought we'd get some.
Please be kind to my friend Ego, will ya?
With his lovely poetry too. So it's great to have him back.
Thank you.
But anyway, it's good to have you all here. And I thank James once again because this is all coming together. And we see some good stuff coming out of here. And I thank Paul also because we have his lovely commentary there on Wednesday nights as well. And his songs, which is very good as well. So, you know, everything's fine. Okay. Well, this is on nights like this. On nights like this, frogs in two-tone harmony. Distant lights flicker in and out of blue gum leaves. A cool breeze stirring the fronds of silver birch, a scent of snowball bushes, heavy in the air. No birds, moths fluttering, far-off sounds of traffic, a sudden crunching of horses, moving through willows behind the shed, quietness in the street. On nights like this, I sit on the veranda and watch the blue moon rocking on the blue-black ceiling in the world. Of the world. That sounds very strange.
All right. So, well, first of all, I need to give a big shout out to our missing poets tonight, Steve Wordsmith. Hey Steve, hope everything's well and have a safe trip back there from Sydney. for Larry. Hope your operation's going well there with what you haven't done. Hopefully, I know we'll see you up here very soon. So thank you very much. Who else is missing? Saul. I hope we see Saul back here soon too. Yeah.
I've seen his mum, she's alright.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Now, and someone who we haven't seen for, 3 or 4 weeks? Doug.
I've been cleansing.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You got a reading for us?
Yeah.
Well, here you
Well,
go. Come on up.
My news has been very bloody quiet.
I can't find my camouflage clothes.
Now look, please, wait a minute. I was in Bellington yesterday with the hippies and I went into the shop down there and the guides or my spiritual mentors threw a book at me about Henry Lawson and it just touched my heart. As soon as I seen it, it said, you need to have a look at this book closely because I want to read you a couple of things. This guy was, anyway, this is on the back cover. I'm sorry. There's a quote from, I think it must be a little book or a story he must have wrote called The Soul of a Poet. A couple of lines he says. A couple of lines he says here, but wronged and cast out. They keep interrupting me. I'm not going to bloody well read this till people shut up. Yeah. But wrong. I don't want to. Henry Lawson to me is sacred. And I mean that. And I don't know him very well. But he's travelled some miles and I respect his life. Anyway, he says, but wronged and cast out. Drink sodden, but shunned and insane and unclean. I have dared where few others have trodden. I have seen what few others have seen. And that's from The Soul of a Poet. And bear with me because I just want to, I've touched into this book, it's very powerful, all about his life and his difficulties and that was most of his life. One struggle to the next and battling with booze and everything. I just might read it. I've got several poems, but I don't want to overdo it. Maybe I'll read one complete poem, which is not long. One which, I'm only an amateur, I'm only a baby, a student. There's one that I won't read, but I read it, and it's about this very well-known poem of his, Andy's Gone with the Cattle, in 1888. But what interested me, when I look at some of his listings, he also wrote a poem about Andy's return. I love that, because Andy's gone with the cattle, everyone's dying and pissed off because Andy's gone, but Andy came back. I love that. Read that one time. So I've got this one to read, and I've got a couple, I've got another one here which I love the content of it and the idea of it. It's called the Wanda Light. And it's about his wandering life and when he was born in a tent. I'll just read a couple of 4-line things. I don't read the whole poem.
Oh, it's a good poem.
You remember it?
It's a good poem.
Well, I beg your pardon?
It's a good poem. You should read the whole thing.
You reckon I'll let a spanking if I don't read it?
Please.
Spanking won't help me, but I might do what you said. All right, mate, I'll have a go. I'm not real good at reading, maybe. And they heard the tent poles, this is his start. And they heard the tent poles clatter, and the fly in twain was torn. 'Tis the soil rag of a taller of the tent where I was born. And what matters it, I wonder, brick or stone or carry coal, or a bush you were born under when it happened long ago? I love this next stanza. And my beds were camp beds, tramp beds, damp beds, and my beds were dry beds on drought-stricken ground. Hard beds, soft beds, wide beds, narrow, for my beds were strange bed, the wide world round. And the old hag seemed to ponder, 'twas my mother told me so, and she said that I would wander where but few would think to go. He will fly the haunts of tailors, he will cross the ocean wide, for his fathers they were sailors, all on his good father's side. Behind me, before me, all my roads are stormy, the thunder of skies and the sea's sullen sound, the coastal liner, the English or foreign, the stateroom or steerage, the wide world round. And the old hag, she seemed troubled as she bent above the bed. He will dream things and he'll see things to come true when he is dead. He will see things all too plainly, and his fellows will deride, for his mothers they were gypsies, all on his good mother's side. And my dreams are strange dreams, are daydreams, are grey dreams, and my dreams are wild dreams and old dreams, and you. They haunt me and they taunt me and they daunt me, and fears of the morrow. My brothers, they doubt me, but my dreams come true. And so I was born of fathers, from where icebound harbours are. He came out of Norway, his father, I think. Men whose strong limbs never rested, and whose blue eyes saw afar. Till for gold one left the ocean, seeking over plain and hill. And so I was born of mothers whose deep minds were never still. I rest not, 'tis best not, the world is a wide one. Caged for an hour I pace to and fro. I see things and breathe things and plan while I'm sleeping. I wander forever and dream as I go. Nearly done. I have stood by Table Mountain on the line at Cape Town. I've watched the sunset fading from the roads that I marked down. I looked out at my brothers from the heights behind Bombay, gazing north and west and eastward over rides I'll tread someday. Last stanza. For my ways are strange ways, and new ways, and old ways, and deep ways, and steep ways, and highways, and low. I'm at home and at ease on a track that I know not, and restless and lost on a road that I know. I love that part, I love it, yeah. Yeah, well, I don't want to flog too much here. I think I've touched on a bit. And,
some more.
well, can I do one more?
Of course you can.
This is another, I've lived for a little bit, well, I've lived for long enough that I have been sitting on the night train, on my own. I mean, it's different if you're with family, but when you're on your own, I guess you get a bit melancholy. Might be a good one. Okay, 1922 about this. Have you seen the bush by moonlight from the train go running by? Blackened log and stump and sapling, ghostly trees all dead and dry. Here a patch of glassy water, there a glimpse of mystic sky. Have you heard the still voice calling? Yet so warm and yet so cold. I'm the mother bush that bore you. Come to me when you are old. Did you see the bush below? You sweeping darkly to the range, all unchanged and all unchanging, yet so very old and strange. Why you thought in softened anger of the things that did us strange, did you hear the bush calling when your heart was young and bold? I'm the mother bush that nursed you. Come to me when you are old. Last stanza. In the cutting or the tunnel, out of sight of stock or shed, Did you hear the grey bush calling from the pine ridge overhead? You have seen the seas and cities. All is cold to you or dead. All seems done and all seems told, but the grey light turns to gold. I'm the mother bush that loves you. Come to me now, you are old. Thanks, Henry. Thanks, mate.
Well, it's time consuming reading a clock. I'm going to invite the next person up, Paul. Paul Wood, everybody.
Wow.
I like opera too. I like t-shirts, mate. I like opera too. And then a picture of the cocker. Oh, it's on the page on the other side of the t-shirt.
Is heckling still on is it okay to heckle?
Silence! Now I never got here tonight. He was driving his coconut milk truck, had a head-on collision with a rum tanker, and got paralytic drinking pina coladas running down a gutter he was lying in. Now, you know what chases him off?
What chases him off?
When he's playing air guitar at a Hare Krishna convention at the Albert Hall, and he breaks a string. Jeez, that pisses him off, that chases him off. Now, you know what he hates?
What does he hate?
He hates meeting people who are built upside down because their feet smell their nose runs. He hates that. Now, this fella suffers from reverse sex education. Because instead of coming, he's going. Now, you know what he really hates? Do you know what he really hates, Professor?
No? What does he hate?
Well,
I don't know any profession.
Well, he hates it when he visits friends and the Alsatian dog roots his leg, especially on the first visit and without flowers and chocolates. Jeez, he hates that. Oh, he hates that a lot. Now, you know what else he hates?
What does he hate?
He hates it when his mum tells him, don't play with yourself down there because God's watching, but you know it's Uncle Bert. Hates that. Now give this fella a great big hand now, come on, get him on there, come on.
It's a big night tonight. All the stars are here. Doug's back. Good to see Doug.
Thank you, sir.
Now tonight, because you're so excited, in such an excitable mood, and in such need of a giant electrifying moment and some culture, tonight's subject is Traviata.
La!
Continue?
La.
Oh, that's it. No. Now, the Traviata is one of the most commonly, it's a big opera in the repertoire. It's done everywhere in the world. Now, this was premiered, written by Giuseppe Verdi in 1853. Had censorship problems from Rigoletto. They debuted this opera at Venice. I've seen this opera actually in Venice too. Just, yeah. Just because I'm, pumped up my own tyres, as you do when you come to the Party Hall of Fame and start talking about yourself. So in this is a story. They were going to call it Violetta, the heroine of the story, but they call it La Traviata, the fallen woman, and it's a story of a courtesan in Paris. And the Traviata, she has a very sort of wild life, but she's a little bit sickly. She's a good-looking girl, and she's courted by a viscount and a baron, and they're having a party. And are you with me here, Gladys? You following this? And they're having a party, and of course, the young hero Alfredo comes to the party and falls rapturously in love with the Traviata, with Violetta. And she excused herself because she's suffering from consumption, whatever they call that then. There's I don't know, some sort of, I don't know what they call that. Consumption, they call it.
Overeating, is it?
No, I don't think, I think it's
TB.
Tuberculosis.
Okay.
Okay, there was no TV then?
No.
No, they had TB. To keep you entertained.
They sure say quite a percentage of the population had it.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Well, the Violetta,
Consumption.
she had the consumption.
Wow.
And she went out to have a cough in her room, and of course, Alfredo, the young hero, comes in and swears dying love towards her. She sort of refuses him because she says she doesn't want to be involved in love. But she sees a sweetness in this guy. And of course, in the process, the party's not rocking too hard, and the count, the viscount, the baron is required to make, or invited to make a toast, which he refuses. But young Alfredo gets up and sings a very famous aria called the Brindisi, the drinking song. So there's your number one, YouTubers, to have a look at. In the first act, the Brindisi in the party. And then, of course, Violetta sort of falls for the handsome charm, the innocent charm of this young man. and he says, when can I see you? She gives Alfredo a flower, and she says, you can see me again when the flower wilts. And of course, that's the next day, isn't it? But she does actually fall for Alfredo, and she sings probably the most famous aria in opera, in all the repertoire, which is the Sempre Libera, a free life, the happy free life. She sings that to have a free and happy life is all that matters. Nothing matters except to be happy and live a free life, drink and be happy. But she's actually quite a sad girl, as most big drinkers and partiers are. So what happens? She decides to refrain from the courtesan life and disappear to her country estate with Alfredo. They're wonderfully in love, and everything's going okay. But what happens? Alfredo's father visits Violetta and tells Violetta, please, abandon my son, discard your love, break this romance, because my daughter's getting married and it would bring shame to my family. And of course, the dad's impressed with Violetta's nobleness, and so what she does, she just disappears, and Alfredo, the boyfriend, thinks that she's gone back to her ways with the Viscount. And what happens? He pursues her back to Paris, and of course there's another party going on, and the Viscount's there, and the Viscount or the Baron joins Alfredo at the gambling tables. Alfredo wins a lot of money, and when he thinks that Violetta has abandoned him to have her life back as a courtesan for the Viscount, and he rushes in and he makes a fool of himself. He throws the money at her feet and deplores her as a slut, etc. And he's barreled out. He challenges the Viscount to a duel. There's a duel ensues, and it's all a misunderstanding because Violetta's actually in love. She's trying to do the right thing for the family. You see, this is how it works. So, what actually happens at the end of it? She gets very sick. She brings him back. The dad comes on, and they get the whole mess sorted out. And of course, she dies in Alfredo's arms. So that's the story of the Traviata. That's one of the great operas. As you know. That's it. The Brindisi. That's the Brindisi. Okay. Now, okay, that's it. Well, in Italian operas there's a drinking song. In French opera there's always a ballad. So,
that's a good point.
yeah.
It's true, isn't it?
Yeah. So look, I just brought some notes. Now, the big soprano, I think, of all time for the Traviata is Joan Sutherland. There's always an argument over whether the big soprano for the Traviata, Violetta, is Sutherland or Maria Callas. But of course, in her early days, in the early 60s when she sang this, her tremendous voice, I mean, she's ridiculed. The people who don't like Joan reckon she can't sing for shit. She trills too much, and you can't understand a word she says. But that's half true. But she is a stupenda, and of course, no one can touch her the way that she hits the notes in this. So the big Sempre Libera, sung by Joan Sutherland. The original recording was with Carla Bergonzi and Cheryl Mills, the baritone. The Viscount, but you can see it on YouTube. Look up anything and compare the tempo, compare the orchestration, compare the recording. Listen to the Sempre Libera. Every soprano in the world does it, and it's on YouTube. You can compare the differences. And when you see some modern sopranos doing this, they sound like a tin whistle compared to the coloratura of the great stupenda. So this is something to look at. Something to compare to, something to cause what's called appreciation, to raise, to appreciate, not money, but appreciate knowledge, to raise it up by comparison.
Did you ever sing live?
No, never. No, never. But she has detractors. But I'm not one. I think she is wonderful. She's powerful. She's lovely, and you know she's just an Aussie broad that does it. And you know there's moments in the singing, especially that is probably her biggest aria. There's others where she sings Norma and other things that she liked, but the Traviata is like a top 40 hit. That's like that's the ubiquitous operatic song. The Brindisi, the drinking song, that's a popular one. You know, everyone rocks with that. It's no big deal. It's not a difficult aria. I could probably sing it. Well, you can sing it for sure, Ashley. All right. Now, after we dispense with all good singing, it's time for the bad singing. Bring it on!
You smell this.
Jesus.
Have you seen the new movie?
No, I'm not going to either.
Why? He's a good director.
No, I'm not going to go and sit. No, well, he is a good director too, but I mean, that's just twat. That's just twat. Elvis was just a sad and sullen guy. He didn't have much to do with anybody. He's a very introverted man. A tough life too. They're punching Elvis up, trying to make money out of dead men. No, I'm not a fan. I don't like that. At any rate, in fact, I've just had a very interesting moment with Elvis reading Sam Phillips' biography. Right. So yes, very deep and intricate explanation about Elvis. Anyway, Elvis wasn't a happy fella. He's sort of an introverted guy. You know, he was punished long. His great work was when he didn't know how great he was, and the greatness of Elvis probably ended in 1955 when Sam Phillips sold his contract, because before that the wonder of what they did with Bill Black, Scotty Moore, in a little room, a room as big as this, with primitive equipment, those beautiful songs. The Sun Records is what you've got to listen to. If you want to know Elvis, have a listen to the Sun Records. And after that, it was the middle of the road. It was vaudeville. Anyway, let's not talk about Elvis. Let's talk about me. Now. You saw that, Steve? So what are we doing tonight? Actually, as usual, because I've run out of gear, run out of equipment, run out of everything, got no talent, because I've fully run out of everything. I'm just going to recite another great old bluegrass song. It'll bring James back out of his coma. He's sitting there half asleep. He's going to love it.
Bring it on, bring it
on. Okay.
Oh, dear.
This is a Stanley Brothers song. Again, from the old country, from the old Kentucky, from the hills of Kentucky. This one's called The Fields Have Turned Brown. Now, I think this is one of the early songs I sang on the first coming. Back all that time ago when I first come to the Poetry Hall of Fame and got sort of shamed and embarrassed into singing the song. So I'm going to do another one. It's another one. Okay. Yeah, James. James, how old were you when I started talking? You all right?
That's a Russian joke out.
He said for the pension. He's a spry young man. Okay, this one's called The Fields Have Turned Brown. I left my home to ramble this country. My mother and dad said, son, don't go wrong. Remember that God will always watch over you, and we will be waiting for you here at home. Son, don't go astray is what they both told me. Remember that love for God can be found. And now they're both gone, this letter just told me. 4 years they've been dead, the fields have turned brown. For many a long year I travelled in sorrow, no thought of the day when I would return. Now as I go home and find no one's waiting, the price I have paid to live and to learn. Son, don't go astray is what they both told me. Remember that love for God can be found. And now they're both gone, this letter just told me. 4 years they've been dead, the fields have turned brown. 4 years they've been dead, the fields have turned brown.
Bravo.
Alright, in a moment I'll invite Gabriel up. Recently I'm always looking to develop my business here, the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame, myself and my skill set, and I've been listening to some, gurus, self-help gurus over falling asleep, like Earl Nightingale and Jim Rohn and the like. Anyway, this one came out of one of Earl Nightingale's videos, and I write this down because it's a way of me learning it and then integrating it into myself, but at the same time sharing what I've learnt with other people. This one's called Generate, and it's about what can you become, because I know a lot of you here are all creative people, becoming something new in your prime of your life, and with plenty more.
I like that word.
With plenty of more time, because I've noticed, like, see that art up there? My dad didn't start being an artist till he was in his 40s, and now he's a great painter. I didn't start drawing portraits till I was 35, and you've seen my portraits in there. They're not too bad.
Very good.
And poetry, I only started writing in 2016, like really seriously at it. So what can you become? This is called Generate. We won't be one to let life happen, be affected by other people's crappin', emotional baggage, immaturity and stuff. Everything passes and most crap is fluff. It's true we have empathy, but we won't carry your emotions. We're not enough. Everyone has patches of roads that are rough. You can whine or rise to the challenge, be tough. If in a hole you can scream and shout or overcome adversity and dig yourself out. Get a purpose with a goal and a plan. Don't let life happen, be a growing human. Suck on society, a leech chasing pleasure, or give to community a heart full of treasure. The effort we give 10 times comes back. We can get a little pain if we live life slack. Complain if you want to, or give thanks, gratitude and joy as money in the bank. Opportunity comes from overcoming pain. Don't complain of pain, you'll grow and gain. Following a purpose, you're successful. Creativity, intelligence are your greatest tool. Act on intuition and see what we create, what beautiful creations we generate. Gabriel. Professor Gabriel Donleavy, not only a wonderful, amazing Doctor of Accountancy, but a really interesting and funny poet.
Nice try, James.
Blow us away!
Settle, pedal.
Trumpet, gum leaves.
Thank you, sir.
I've heard amazing things from gum leaves.
Wow.
He's ripped it out for me.
Not yet. Right. Hi everybody. Two tonight only. I was going to read you some Serb poetry in English as well, but that'll do for another day. A lot of us are getting old.
I'm getting some by post.
We belong to the baby boomers generation, most of us. Some of us are, not us, some of you are Generation X, born after 1968, but most of us are 1946 to 1968.
Just a pump.
And when we die, a lot of us like to have some pop record played at our funeral in the hopes that from the afterlife somewhere we're going to listen to our favourite hit. It's often my way, for Christ's sake, but sometimes it doesn't matter anymore, which makes a bit more sense. So I thought I'm going to start a project, and I really am, called Death's Doors, and it's going to begin tonight by a selection of just one-liners from relevant pop songs, sometimes slightly altered to fit the purpose of the solemn occasion of sliding into the fire and hopefully looking down on it. Death's Doors, first selection. Yes, fade away. I forgot to remember. Next one. Too old. Then, when I was 64. And then, when I was young. And then, my back pages. And then, never found somebody to love. And then, you won't know who this one is. Why am I living? That was a lookalike Tom Cruise called Jess Conrad in England in 1961. He's on YouTube. Fascinating character. Next one. The Breaking Point. Next one. We found the new horizon. Next one. Black is Black. Next one from David Lynch's first film. In heaven, everything is fine. That's the girl in the radiator singing that. Next one. Distant Karma from John Lennon's Instant Karma. Next one. There's a place for us. You all know where that's from. Next one. Strange Days. We're going to get back to those guys. Next one. Light My Fires. Next one. Talking about my degeneration. My favourite. Next one.
Hallelujah.
I got the shake. I got the hippie break. That's what happens to you. Next one. I can die. That's the herd. I can fly. Next one. Do leave me this way. You all know that one. Next one. Pretty vacant. That's the next generation. And lastly, Return to Nature, mentioning dear old Elvis. And that's very, very beginning of a project, Death's Doors. I have a vision of people like us getting together, putting on wigs, and carrying on the work of the original Doors, whose leader, Jim Morrison, died and is buried in Paris in 1971. But more of that as we progress.
You that man has been seen driving a purple bus
I wish.
around the table.
I wish.
Professor, permission to speak, sir. Permission to speak.
As if we could be stopped.
Did you mention yesterday when I was young in that prologue? Was that the song Yesterday When I Was Young by Charlotte?
No, it's not that one. It's the Animals thing. But that would have...
What a great, what a beautiful song that was, and what a sort of a reflective song.
Well, why don't you do a list as well? Because you've got a better voice than me, you can sing them. And this could get legs, this little project, and it's not been done before. And then my second one needs a little bit of a backing track to get started. And when we get to the chorus, which will be very obvious, then open the sheets I've given you, and if you wish, join in, and if you don't, meditate. Right. Ready, steady, go. Volume up.
Know that it would be untrue.
You know that it would be untrue. You know that you would be a liar if you were to say to me, stay out the way when you retire. Load it when you slide my fire. Load it when you slide my fire. Makes me like a gun for hire. The time for reparations due. Our talents you do not admire. Ignoring us cause we ain't new. Counting days till we expire. Chorus. Load it when you slide my fire. Load it when you slide my fire. Makes me like a gun for hire. And so it begins. Thank you very much.
That's how it is. Okay.
Hey,
Yeah.
Wow.
I got a couple more for you, but So I have a special guest tonight, a very, very special guest. She's been hanging around in my life for a very long time, ever since I rescued her from a rubbish bin in Logan TAFE up there in Brisbane. She's very special. She doesn't answer back.
Do you have to blow her up?
No, she doesn't put out either. I'll bring her over and introduce you all to my good friend Melissa Warren. Now, she's just a hairdressing mannequin, and she used to have a stick, but she doesn't. Anyway, she wrote this poem last night, and she's asked me to read it out to you. Now, when we finish tonight, we have got a cake for Gladys, so we're asking everyone if you'd like to stay around and celebrate Gladys's birthday. But this is for Melissa, and it's called Get Ahead, Life of an Ex-Hairdressing Mannequin. I think I need a different voice for this. I am ahead. Language warning. I am ahead. I used to have a stick, but now I'm just ahead and I don't have a dick.
What?
I am ahead, living in a macrame net. I'd like to play football, but sometimes I forget. I can't kick a football. I've got no feet, my mouth doesn't open, and I can't even eat. I am ahead and I just hang about. I don't go to the pub and I never have to shout. I am ahead and I am a charmer. I'll never be a dolphin rider or a chocolate farmer. I am ahead and my name is Melissa, made of composite plastics, and I'd like to kiss ya. But my lips don't move and they're hard. I can't even ride a wild horse around the yard. I am ahead and I once had a stick. I've got no arms, legs, body, pussy, dick. I don't eat food 'cause I just spoil it. I have no bum and can't sit on a toilet. I am ahead and I like to play games, but I can't, so I just hang about and watch James. He's the only one who listens to me. I'm a captive in a cage and he won't set me free. I tried to escape but I can't run away. At least James listens to what I got to say. I feel safe living here in James's home. Perhaps I've got that syndrome known as Stockholm. I am ahead and I write poetry telepathically through James, and he writes it down for me. But most of the time I hang about for hours. I enjoy the times that he gives me golden showers. I am ahead, a victim, my excuse. I can't run away, so I put up with abuse. I know I am to blame, I forgive his sin, but my abuser rescued me from a rubbish bin. Oh, I know. Yeah.
Wow.
Now I just got a head. That's the only head I've got for a while. Now the next two. Oh well, Donald Drop Bear. There's actually, I don't think there's any rude words in this one, so I don't need to give you a language warning. All right, Donald Drop Bear. Donald Drop Bear had raggedy hair. Dropped out of trees, giving tourists a scare if they ventured onto his territory, which is fair, then dragged them away to his drop bear lair. It was tourists that Donald Drop Bear liked to eat, the soft, juicy, tender kind, his favourite treat. Hang 'em for a month to tenderise the meat, start with the eyeballs and finish with the feet. One day, Donna Drop Bear gave Donald a dare to bring a bodybuilder back to the lair, so he went and caught two, a bodybuilding pair, and hung them in the lair, a cave with dry air. After 4 weeks, they both had to wait for the bodybuilder's meat to be tender taste great. For dinner that night, it's what they both ate. Then they climbed up a gum tree to both hibernate. Along came a tourist just before they fell asleep. Donald Drop Bear got a whiff and did a big leap and landed on a shepherd named Little Bo Peep, who was suddenly surrounded by Bo Peep's sheep. This is where Donald Drop Bear's story failed. He was whacked by Bo Peep's sheep with all their tails, and Donald Drop Bear was locked in a zoo. Yes, jailed. Donna came to court the next day and he was bailed. Well, Donald Drop Bear had neatly combed hair, wore a suit like a CEO going somewhere, took a barrister to court with a wig of grey hair, and was acquitted because the witness couldn't be found anywhere. Donald Drop Bear arrived back home. Donna Drop Bear said, "I've saved you a bone of Little Bo Peep who was walking all alone. I dropped from my tree and caught her all on my own." Bo Peep is what they ate for dinner that night. Donald said to Donna, "This shepherd girl tastes right. You didn't even hang the meat. It's a delight." They climbed up a gum tree to hibernate that night. Well, they both slept well, full of Little Bo Peep. I woke in the morning after having a good sleep. When a tourist came along, Donald did a leap, brought a tourist back to the lair to hang and keep. Donald Drop Bear had raggedy hair. He dropped out of trees, giving tourists a scare if they ventured upon his territory, which is fair. Then drag him away to his Drop Bear lair. Yeah, and I don't know where that one came from, but that's I don't know what inspired me to write that, but anyway, it happened. As it does. Okay. Alright, one last one before we go. This is Bill with the psychedelic dick. So concept warning, language warning, if you've got children, send them to bed.
What about the writing, James? Now what about the writing?
M15 plus. 15 plus, yeah. Right. His name was Bill, and he tattooed on his prick. He was known as Bill with the psychedelic dick. He was known far and wide, and everywhere he'd go, people would come and ask him for a show. One day he was at the beach, sitting in the sun, and Bill decided that he was going to have some fun. Pulled down his speedos, waved his psychedelic penis. One woman vomited, another yelled, "It's Venus!" But Bill kept waving his psychedelic dick. Another woman yelled, "I'm going to be sick!" Along came a policeman and grabbed Bill's cock, took out his handcuffs and snapped on the lock. Bill was led away with speedos round his knees. The duty sergeant asked, "Have you got a disease?" Bill replied, "I'm Bill with the psychedelic dick. I apologise that I made those women sick. My fun wasn't funny. In fact, I fucked up. I waved my psychedelic penis and I'm in the lockup." He was bailed and appeared in court the next day. The judge seriously considered sending Bill away, but then he asked to see Bill's psychedelic prick. Bill took out his prick and the judge waved his dick. The judge's dick was tattooed, and Bill got a shock. "Not guilty," said the judge with the psychedelic cock. Bill with the psychedelic dick walked free. Now he has his own show for all the world to see, but in the show there's two. Bill is not alone. His sidekick is the judge with the psychedelic bone.
Hey, James, I only said waffle iron.
Waffle
I only said waffle iron. That's dreadful.
All right, well, there we are.
Publish that under the pseudonym Bollock.
Yeah. Absolutely. All right, well, thank you very much, everyone. If you like that out there in Facebook, share it with your friends, and on YouTube as well. Give it a thumbs up and share and comment as well, please. And thank you all new poets for coming along tonight. Thank you very much. We can do Gladys's birthday cake while the camera's still rolling.
Wow.
These personal touches.
We're getting the cake.
That's pretty sexy, sicko poetry, I reckon. Pretty sick. Pretty damn sick.
Happy birthday, Gladys.
Thank you, mate.
It's today her birthday.
She's very interesting. Virginia walked up.
Is it today?
Yesterday.
20th. Okay.
Oh, I'm going to have to go, but
Yeah, no, you're fine. Thank you.
It's lovely to see you. It's lovely to see you, Tim.
Tell me what for. Don't go on me, I've got something to put in the car.
Happy birthday.
Sorry?
Wow!
Happy birthday.
Hey,
Gladys, come on up.
hey, legend.
Perhaps there's some connection between you and Ring Lardner.
Alright.
Happy
Birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Gladys. Happy birthday to you. Hip hip, hooray! Hip hip, hooray! Hip hip, hooray! There you go.
It's a thing of wonder.
Yes, absolutely.
And also Tudor and Frida.
So like that, subscribe and give it a thumbs up. Finish.